All right, welcome back everybody to VARC Solutions Bookkeeping Academy. Today we are going to be doing a crash course in ChatGPT. We've had obviously a lot of discussions about it sort of informally here and there. I know people have been dabbling with it. This is intended to be just a fire hose, 30-minute, everything I could possibly tell you in 30 minutes. And also really with the ultimate goal of empowering you to kind of go explore on your own if you haven't yet and would like to. So we have the paid version of ChatGPT. So that's I think it's like the $20 a month. There's also team plans, which is actually what we have. But I think you can do the $20 a month, and it's you're going to have all the things that I'm going to be talking about. But in terms of the context for this bookkeeping academy, I'm going to use ChatGPT to do a few things. Try to use a few bookkeeping types of use cases, but this really can apply to a lot of different environments. And obviously, I'm not trying to tell you everything about everything. So the first thing that I want to talk about is called populating your prompts with things that will help give context later. Okay. Also, how to set up security so that you're not sharing public information. So the first thing, for example, settings, data controls. If you do go into ChatGPT and you hover over this thing on the right top corner, you can go to settings here. And under settings, there is a data controls. And I would encourage you to turn off the improve the model for everyone. I don't know if this is the be all end all of not sharing stuff that you're putting out there. There's probably no way to completely limit that, but I've been told this is at least one way to limit the amount of stuff that you may be sharing that could be quote unquote out in the internet. Obviously, if you're dealing with client data, you should be very, very careful about doing that. Try to get rid of client identifying information either way, just in case. But that is one thing that you probably should do. The second thing, I want to kind of give you an overview of the models. Okay, so in ChatGPT, when you first log in or if you first sign up for the paid subscription, at the top left corner, there are different models to choose from. Okay, and each one of these can be used for sort of slightly different things. You'll see one that says 4.0, great for most tasks. There's 0.3, which is for advanced reasoning. There's a number of ones. And then if you are on the paid account, you also get more models. And so this is where you can have 4.5, which actually came out, I think, about a year ago. And we're in July 2025 right now. Came out about a year ago, and it's still quote unquote in research mode, but it's the most powerful as of right now. But you can see it's as good for writing and exploring ideas. It's not necessarily as good for advanced reasoning and research. So you can see there's different models. But what's kind of cool about this is that you can actually go into ChatGPT and you can start a new chat just by clicking that little button right there. And you can actually give it a prompt to say, okay, and this is the prompt that I gave it. I said, can you give me a brief summary of the current ChatGPT models, including experimental ones that haven't been released yet, and what each model is best for? And again, in a couple of moments, it came back and said, hey, ChatGPT 3.5 is good for this. It's fast. It does this. There's 4 Turbo, there's 4 Omni, there's the blah, 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 blah. Okay. So if you're like wanting to know, like, what are those different models and which ones are good for that, you can ask ChatGPT and it'll give you the summary about it itself. And I included in the context of what it also gave me is, some summary. So when ChatGPT 5 comes out, it's really going to be an all around everything. So in theory, it will be replacing all these other ones that can do a much better job at it. But you can kind of see that it's got some that are better for content writing, creative, different things like that. And in the summary that I kind of put together in a Google Doc is the same kind of summary there, okay? But one of the things I wanted to point out was in the ChatGPT prompt engine, Okay, so let's assume for a second I was over here on 4.0, and I said, and maybe I was trying to give ChatGPT a research that I wanted to not just get a lightning fast Google type of response. I wanted to spend more time thinking, analyzing, interpreting to get me better information. On the bottom of ChatGPT, there's this little tools filter little thing, and you can actually tell it to run deep research. Okay, so effectively what that does is it kind of like ramps up the research analysis part of it. So it'll go do deeper and more extensive research if you tell it to. Okay, and that may be an option that's only on certain models, so it might not be in all models. But just know that if you're trying to really do a deep research project, clicking that run deep research will make it go farther. Okay, it's kind of like telling it work harder. Okay. Going back to the Google Doc, one thing that I also learned that I think is also really helpful is this concept of saving contextual information for ChatGPT to use. So, for example, if you think you're primarily going to be using this for customer research, you can kind of give it some context of the type of customer research you want. I could say I'm a QuickBooks consultant and bookkeeper, primarily working with small to medium-sized businesses in the USA, working with both QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. But here's what you can do. You can actually tell it to save this into memory and use it for context in responses. Okay, so you could literally copy that, go into a new chat, paste in that information, and hit go. And it will come back and basically say, thank you. That has been saved into memory. I will now use that in the future when you do searches. And I'll give you an example of how I use that. I basically said, hey, if I do ChatGPT stuff, I want ChatGPT to know who I am and what company and why and all that other stuff. So I gave it some background information. I basically said, hey, our company is VARC Solutions. Here's our website. This is the kind of service that we provide. We're also specialists in this. And then basically I said, load this background information on VARC Solutions in addition to context for our team's research. Consider this information when making recommendations. So it then came back and said, hey, I've loaded it. I will now tailor future recommendations accordingly. So you can basically tell it give it the context that you want it to use and have it save it into memory, and it will do that, which I think is kind of cool. Okay. And so now if I said, hey, I'm looking for information on, marketing tips, it would come back and say something along the lines of, well, here's a list of marketing tips that we reckon for small businesses, because it knows I'm not, IBM trying to get marketing tips because I've given it the context. Here's one that I have not tried, but I just think it's kind of interesting. We'll do this real time. Some people learn best through stories. And so what I put in here was, I learn best through stories. When possible, if a response can be given in a brief story format, that would be great. Please save this to memory. Okay. So like if you want ChatGPT to kind of tell you more of a story in response versus, the context, just the facts. So I'm going to try this. I've never done it before. I'm just going to try it, see what it does. And which is always super fun to write to do during a live demo. Great. It says, got it, Brad. I will use brief story formats in response whenever it fits. Looking forward to making your learning journey more engaging story style. Okay. So now, again, this is just me. I'm going to just try something. I'm trying to learn debits and credits. And I probably don't have to add the second part, but just to make sure, I'm going to say, can you explain this using a story?
Oh, that's hilarious.
The tale of Jamie's juice bar. Jamie always dreamed of opening her own juice bar. She finally saved up enough money to start Jamie's juice bar in a sunny little town. Jamie puts $10,000 into her savings into a bank account. Debit increased cash because shows how she has more cash. Credit increases owner's equity because okay. So you can kind of see, oh, and look at it. Jamie buys equipment, blah, 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 blah. First sale, Jamie has her first sale. And you see how it's explaining the debits and credits? So, oh, and the moral to the story, I love it. There's a moral to the story. So if you learn best through story, if you learn best through, just the facts, tell it how you learn, and it will use that information going forward. Here's so that's just saving some contextual information, and basically just tell ChatGPT, here's some information about me and how I learn, what I like to see, what I like to do. Save this and use that if possible. Okay. Here's another one that we've used actually on the sales and marketing side a little bit, but I think this can also be used as a bookkeeper consultant. Like if you've got a call coming up with a client and you're like, I have no idea what this company does. I don't want to just get on a call cold and not have anything, not know anything. So here's the client research. I said, I have an upcoming appointment with a client, Absolute Drywall in Pearland, Texas. Here's their URL. To help me prepare for my meeting, please tell me everything you know about Absolute Drywall, including service area, services they provide, products they sell, who they market their services to, and the current ownership or leadership people information. Okay. And again, this is one I have not done. I'm just going to try it. I'm going to go into a new chat here. I'm going to type in the information. And by the way, if ChatGPT doesn't know exactly what you're looking for, it'll come back and say, do you want more of this? Do you want more of that? Can you clarify if you want list versus that? Okay. And what you're going to see is it comes back and says, here's where they're located. Here's where they were when they were established. They have 13 to 25 employees. Here's their annual revenue. Service area, Greater Houston, works with residential home builders, commercial multifamily projects. So you can see, I mean, it's giving them, giving you a pretty good option, pretty good idea of who they work with, the client types of clients, leadership, Jennifer Speck, boom. Industry affiliations, they're in the drywall installation contractors industry, blah, 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 blah. And then there's a summary. So you can see how if you had a client coming up in 5 minutes and you're like, I just want some quick research on them, put it in ChatGPT, tell it to give you some information back. And this could just give you just some insights so that when you're on the phone with them, you can say, yeah, I noticed you're in the, I noticed you drywall and, you work in Greater Houston. Are you exploring other areas? It just gives you some things to chat about besides, hey, you needed help with payroll. Okay. Couple more. So data manipulation. So this is one that I think you guys could use a lot more. And I don't have what I would call the best example. You guys are dealing with the messy data more than I am. But I want to kind of give you an example of what this could look like. So whether this is like cleaning up Stripe information, I think we talked about that a few weeks ago, just in general. You can use ChatGPT to clean up, summarize, etc. And so I downloaded a credit card statement. And what I want to do is I want to have ChatGPT do a little bit of a summary of it. Okay. So let me go to ChatGPT and I'm going to give you that, but I'm also going to give you one other example if I can find it. No, I think I probably deleted it. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to go to a new chat. I'm going to hit this little plus sign and notice that you can add photos and files. So I am going to upload a credit card statement. So basically I went to a bank, I downloaded the credit card statement, and I'm just uploading the CSV. But what I want to do along with uploading it is I want to ask it to do something with that data. So can you summarize this by vendor based on the description column? Okay. So can you summarize this by vendor? So if you can imagine, you've got a credit card statement, and it has all the individual lines and rows in detail. I'm uploading this statement. It's going to go take that data, which you can see it's got lots and lots of stuff up here, right? Okay. And it's analyzing it. And usually within about 10-15 seconds, it's going to come back and say, here's a summary, total spending by vendor based on the description. Let me know if you want this grouped differently, monthly, by category, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And so notice how it's got Microsoft and then some stuff, and then Microsoft and some different stuff, and like, and some more Microsoft, some Bill.com, there's some LinkedIn, right? There's all sorts of stuff in there. So, and I did test this one out in advance. So one of the things I found was, okay, what I wanted to do is I want to kind of ignore those variations to help group these a little bit more appropriately. So I put in a next prompt, which was, in the description column, focus on the name and ignore variations such as the store number, ride number, bill number, etc. And then it goes off and cranks through that a little bit more. And it's going to come back and have better, more summarized information. So again, this is just one example while it's loading here. But if you've got dirty data from a client, from a download, you just wanted to summarize something that's in text into a table, those are some very, very easy things for it to do. Okay. But you'll notice, let's see, here's the uploaded version cleaned up. Just going to scroll down. It didn't really do it quite as well as it had done at the time before. Let's see. So I'm just going to say I'm still seeing LinkedIn with multiple rows. I want to see LinkedIn, Microsoft, etc. on one row per vendor. Okay. So just tell it what's not working about what it's trying to do, and have it try again. And then we'll see if it comes back with anything better. Okay, I'm just going to pull up my next example while that's loading here. So I know, like, for example, Jay, you've been dealing with Washington, or maybe that was Catherine, what is B&O tax? And so let's say you've got a client that has to deal with B&O tax in Washington, and you're like, I don't know what that is. Okay. We're going to do a research project for that one as well. Just give me see if this comes back here. Okay. All right, perfect. So notice how it was duplicating Microsoft multiple times, and it was still duplicating LinkedIn multiple times. I told it to get a little bit better at this. And so now it's summarized the Microsoft, it's summarized the LinkedIn, and it's doing a lot better job now of giving us that information, which, by the way, I can now download as a table into CSV or an Excel spreadsheet. And now I've got, hopefully, that better information. Okay. So that's just one example, but try it, give it a try. Take any messy data and see if it can help summarize it for you. Now, this next one, I did this one ahead of time, but again, I'll just kind of show you. I said, what is B&O tax in Washington? Like, I have no idea. And it came back with one prompt with this entire summary. It's based on gross income, total revenue with no deductions or expenses, applied to businesses with physical presence or economic nexus. Here's the tax rate, effective tax rates, filing and paying, credits and exemptions, legislative changes. I mean, so again, this is a lot better than a typical Google search. And if I wanted to know more about legislative changes, I could do another prompt and say, tell me more about the legislative changes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. All right. I'm going to do one more just to kind of give you something else that I've done that, again, may or may not apply to you, but it could be something just to explore. So ChatGPT can also create images. If you're working on a PowerPoint, if you're working with a client, working on a client summary of some sort, 4.0, okay? Remember that summary I did before, and it said 4.0, it says good for images as well. So I am currently in 4.0, so that's the one I'm going to stick with. But I came over here and said, I was doing a presentation on embezzlement, and I wanted an image of a thief opening a mailbox. And so I said, create an image of a thief opening a mailbox. And it basically went out and created one, okay? I don't know what it's going to come up with this time, but I have the example over here if it doesn't do a good job, but we'll see what it comes up with this time. And by the way, while it's doing that one, I also, for that same presentation, I was like, hey, I want to have some red flags. I was talking about, here's some red flags in your financials, similar to what Angie was talking about a few weeks ago. And so I did another one that says, show me a picture of a red flag. And again, I could have Googled this and I could have found it, right? But ChatGPT can also create these images as well, which is also pretty cool. So let's see what it is going to create for us. So there it is, a thief opening up a mailbox. So you can, and now I could go download that picture and put that in my presentation. I'm going to ask it one more. It said, show me a picture of a red flag, because that's something I wanted to put into a presentation. Comes out, does its thing. Okay. So I'm going to wrap up with this example, and then Leslie, you had mentioned that you wanted to show something about AI on QBO Advanced. So I'm going to pass you the ball here in just a second after this shows up, and that way you can kind of do a screen share on your end and show us what is in QBO Advanced.
Second, loading it up on my end.
Perfect. So again, it's creating this image of a red flag. There it is. That's exactly what I asked. I could come back and say, give me one without the clouds. Give me one without the flagpole. Make the flagpole silver, whatever. And it would go do that. So pretty much just got to tell it what you want and keep telling it, and it'll go do it for you. So I know that was a lot in 25 minutes, but that is my crash course in ChatGPT. Any questions while Leslie's also going to pull up things on her screen?
I have it, by the way.
Okay, perfect. Real quick, any questions on any of that stuff? Any thoughts?
I like the ability to research a company and find out information, because if it said 18 to 25 employees, and then I ask the client and they only have 5, then I know that the information out there, it tells me more about the company, about what is out there on the internet versus what's in reality. So
Yep.
I do like that. That is very, very powerful.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Leslie, go ahead and take it away.
Okay. Oh, am I sharing?
No, you need to hit the green share button.
Well, that's what I was looking for. And I think you have to.
Oh, let me see. Maybe I have to change you real quick. Give me a second. Okay.
Join as a panel.
Yeah, I think now you should be able to.
Okay, here, share. Okay, just real briefly, all I did is I went into my reports, and there's now this blue, do you see it here? This review summary, and you click on it, and it's got that little AI icon there. And it is absolutely amazing what it offers. Now, I do want to just say a couple of things. One, I've already given them feedback that you cannot edit this. So if it points out something that's just plain stupid, like obvious, and you want to print it and share this with your client, 2 things. 1, you can't edit it, and 2, you can't add it to your monthly management packet. can't be added to a report. But I just want to point out, like, so cost of goods decreased, and then we look also that income decreased. So it makes sense based on this is a home builder.
Mm-hmm.
Interest rates are still too high, so there's a ripple effect. So, and he knows all this stuff, but what's nice is you've got this little summary, and then you've got these different little amounts here. And then over here, when we're talking about cost of goods, here, I'm going to go down to here. This is actually kind of interesting. So when it talks about expenses, it says, why did this happen? It actually digs down to even further, as to why there was a drop. Now, by the way, I would never bother a client with a $43 variance. Okay, not a several $1 million company. That's just plain stupid. And even given this size company, I wouldn't even bother him with a $5,000 one. So that's what my comment is. So when I gave them the was this helpful, I said, yeah, but I would like to be able to edit it. Like I wouldn't include this particular blurb. So I just wanted to point out that there's this new tool, and you get at it just by going to your reports. And there's this little blue bar now, and you hit review summary. And it's very interesting because we could go on ChatGPT and drop our report into it to see what's going on. But here you've got this very, very thorough, it's basically, to me, it's Intuit is trying to replace what Giraffe, JIRAV, was.
Giraffe,
And they also have this other one here. I don't believe this is available to everybody yet. This KPIs. I haven't seen it everywhere, but I mention this because I don't really know why this is here, but under standard report, under here, they keep sticking these things in weird places. But anyway, this KPIs is very interesting because this is the kind of thing we want to see. We want to see income go down and cost of goods go down. You don't want them to be going up. And anyway, so I just thought, it's the artificial intelligence built into QuickBooks Online is now increasing. And I think either we have to wait to see where it gets rolled out, but I'm only pointing this out so people know where to look. Because I didn't know where the heck, I clicked on this the first time and I was like, where the heck how did I do that? So
awesome.
that's all, but this is an advanced file. And if I go to somebody who's not advanced, I don't think it's there. But once again, it's like that, it's like how they roll things out. I don't know. Let me
Yeah,
go to reports, and I don't see that bar, that blue thing over here.
yeah. So it may just be they're beta testing their own stuff, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, but
Cool.
the chat GPT, this is far more powerful than the chat GPT. I just thought I'd point that out. Thanks for doing
Awesome.
that,
Awesome.
Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Yeah, if you'll stop sharing on your end. And that's a wrap for this session. We hope this, I mean, first off, I hope this helped you. I hope it kind of gave you a taste for what's possible. Again, my encouragement to you is if you haven't gone out and loaded up ChatGPT, if you're not on the paid version, and you're on our team, of course, we can add you to our team so that you do have access to the paid version. But get out there and explore it. Give it a try. Anytime you think of Googling something, throw it in the ChatGPT instead and see what it gives you and just play with it. And then also please do let me know how you're using it. Let me know what you're doing with it that you think is helpful, speeds up your time or speeds up your work, makes you better at doing your job, because that's something that we can share with everybody. And that way we're not just sort of like learning in silos, but we're learning and then sharing and collaborating on that stuff. So hope that was helpful. I'm going to go ahead and hit the stop recording button on today's session, and then we will see you next time.